In this lecture, we will construct the divided differences table of a function using a spreadsheet. We will consider the function y equals the logarithm of x base 2. For the data, we will use the values of x whose base 2 logarithms are exact: 0.5, 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. We'll also throw in the point at x equals 8 times the square root of 2. It's a simple pre-calculus exercise to find the base 2 logarithms of these values, and we'll leave that as an exercise for the viewer. Before we show how we can use a spreadsheet to generate a table, we first show what the final table should look like. First, we index and tabulate the points and their coordinates. We have a total of 7 points, so the index I goes from 0 to 6. Here are the coordinates of the points. With the points all tabulated, we enter the divided differences values. Note that we have designated the y-coordinates as f superscript 0 sub I, although we found these values without dividing and without taking differences. Since I goes from 0 to 6, the divided differences go from f superscript 0 sub I to f superscript 6 sub I. Here are the divided differences. So how do we get this table using a spreadsheet? First, we designate the I, x, and y columns. Then we enter the x values first. We have x equals 0.5, 1, 2, 4, 8, and then we have 8 times the square root of 2. But we have to use an equal sign here or the spreadsheet will not accept it. It's not a very smart spreadsheet. Press enter to get the decimal value of 8 times the square root of 2, and then we have 16. Then we enter the i's, which go from 0 to 6. Actually, it would not matter if we had entered the I values first, before the x sub I values. For the y values, we can enter each y value by hand. However, we will use the log function instead. We define the first y value. Now, instead of digging through the formatting for logs of different bases for this spreadsheet, we will use a conversion formula. Log x base 2 is simply the natural logarithm of x, ln x, divided by the natural logarithm of 2. Or we can use any base b. Log x base 2 is log x base b divided by log 2 base b. Hence, the first y entry can be written as equals. Don't forget the equal sign. The natural logarithm of b2 being the cell for the first x value, divided by ln of 2. Then press enter. Then we can drag this formula to cover all the y values. Because I goes from 0 to 6, there should be 6 divided differences, f superscript 1 to f superscript 6. We'll simplify the notation here a bit by using f1 to f6 instead. We'll also write column y sub I as column f0. Recall that the first divided differences are the slopes between consecutive points. So for the first entry in column f1, it is this y value at C3 minus this y value at C2 all over this x value at B3 minus this x value at B2. Don't forget the equal sign. Press enter. Then we drag the formula to cover the entries in F1. For the first entry in column F2, we can use the formula from the previous column, but we have to make modifications. Dragging the formula from the previous column over, we get a value of -1 for the first entry, which is probably not right. The numerator for the formula should be this divided difference at D3 minus this divided difference at D2, so the numerator is correct. The denominator needs to be modified. Column C, as indicated here, is not for the x values, which are what we need. It is column B. So we change C to B. Recall how we get the denominator for this divided difference. Go diagonally down to y, and x is what we need. Here, x is in cell B4, so the index 3 should change to 4. Then we subtract the x value from cell B2. An easy way to figure out the first index in the denominator is simply to add the superscript 2 to the index of the second entry. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Press enter to get the correct entry, then drag the formula to cover all the entries in this column. For the first entry in column F3, we use the formula from F2. And then we'll make modifications. Column C should change to column B. This index 4 should change to 2 plus 3 or 5. Press enter, then cover all the entries. Now for F4, use the formula for F3. Change column C to column B. Change the index 5 to 2 plus 4, or 6. Press enter, then cover all the entries. For F5, we use the formula for F4. Change column C to B. Change the index 6 to 2 plus 5, or 7. And then cover all the entries. Finally, F6. Use F5. Change column C to column B. Change the index 7 to 2 plus 6, which is 8. And we have our complete table. Just one modification that we'll make and that is to render the values up to 4 decimal places, which is what we have on the main page.